Hello everyone, today I am back in a Mk7 Ford Fiesta ST. Now, I've driven a couple of Fiesta STs in the past, and although I will admit for many reasons, prejudices included, I'd never own one of these, I will not deny how much fun they are to drive and how they really are a performance car for the everyman. You can pick one of these up now for not very much at all, and with just a little bit of work, you can turn them into a serious performance car for your choice of either backroad weapon, exciting daily, or indeed track slag. This car is a full-on Stage 3. I've been kindly loaned this for a little bit by Stealthwerx. They are a small tuning company based in Norwich, and they've been gaining themselves quite the reputation as basically the people to bring your Fiesta to. Now, there's a question I've had for quite a long time, and the people at Stealthwerx have been able to provide me with a nice and easy to follow answer, which is, what in the hell is all this stage stuff anyway? And it doesn't really help when different people seem to give you different answers. So I'm going to give you, as best as I can remember, the answer that Stealthwerx gave me, and this relates of course to Fiestas. Stealthwerx offer three main levels or stages of tuning for the ST. You can upgrade from one to the next, however for simplicity's sake, the prices I'm quoting are going to be the cost of taking a stock car to each individual stage. First up of course is Stage 1. At the bare minimum, this is a simple remap providing 225 brake horsepower and 260 pound-foot of torque. No additional modifications are required. However, Gareth at Stealthwerx is keen to stress the importance of keeping temperatures under control and suggests the fitment of an uprated intercooler as soon as possible in the modding process. With one of those and an induction kit, you could see about 10 more of both horsepower and torque on top of those figures. You do need to run your car on 99 octane fuel in any case, but if you just go for the software upgrade with no hardware, Stage 1 will set you back a very modest £369. Stage 2 is where hardware becomes required. Although Stealthwerx say the stock exhaust is good for as much power as the stock turbo can make, the stock cat does need upgrading. You can replace that with either a high-flow sports catalyst or a decat. You'll change the sound of the car, improve performance, and most importantly, lower those engine bay temps. For this stage, if you don't already have them, an ITG intake and uprated intercooler will now be necessary. Stage 2 starts at £1,349 from a stock car. You can also add a forged recirc valve or an uprated exhaust at this stage. Benefits will be had, but again, they are optional. Power is around 240 to 245, and torque is between 280 and 290 pound-foot. Stage 3 is where things get really serious. On top of everything in stages 1 and 2, you add an X47R hybrid turbo, an uprated actuator, and a ported exhaust manifold. Power will now sit between 320 and 330 horsepower, with torque somewhere over 300. This would cost you £3,699 in basic form. At this stage, a catpack exhaust is required, and Stealthwerx prefer Miltech. The best part of £4,000 might seem like a lot of money to spend on a Fiesta, but you'll now have a car running reliably more than 50% over stock power. But how does that translate in the real world? This particular car has been dynoed to a dependable 330 horsepower and 300 pound-foot of torque for a little 1.6. That's amazing. However, I have to be fair to the people at Stealthwerx. What amazes me more is how drivable this thing is. I would fully expect a car putting out 200 horsepower per litre to be a bit of an animal. This really, truly isn't. And I have to give a thorough apology to all the youngsters out there running these cars that I've previously thought would just be lunatic mobiles, when actually they don't have to be. Now, yes, this one, as you can probably hear, has the odd pop and bang and whatnot, but actually it's pretty well judged. Torque is limited until you get to about 3,500 RPM, and then it slowly feeds in the full boost. And this will rev all the way to 7,300, and it is deceptively quick. That is why I brought this to a dual carriageway, so I don't get myself into too much trouble. I'm now sat at legal motorway speeds, and this car is perfectly pleasant. Now this does have some eye-back red line lowering springs on it, which are not to my taste. They are a little bit bouncy, and personally if I was going to do suspension work to one of these cars, I would probably try and do something a little more comprehensive. However, that's not what I'm here to judge. I am here to judge the engine work, and it's really rather impressive. Now, speaking to Gareth at StealthwerX, the thing that I was most pleased about was the fact that he really is not obsessed with peak figures. He and I both believe that peak figures are, well, not just unimportant, but on occasion downright misleading. And if you really enjoy a car's performance, certainly on road, what's most important is the way that it behaves below the curve, the way that it behaves when you're not absolutely gunning it and revving the car out in every single gear, which, let's be honest here, is how you're going to be treating things most of the time. And these cars do very well. Now, you can feel it trying to spin up an inside wheel when you're exiting a roundabout, and this car is not fitted with a limited slip differential, which I personally would recommend that you get if you don't have one. That's just my feeling for it. If you're doing just straight line stuff and all that, it's not really a problem, but for better handling in the corners, especially in tricky conditions or the wet, even the stock powered cars do benefit from a limited slip diff, and I'm pretty sure the guys there would be happy to supply you with one should you so desire. There's no good being able to eke a really impressive power figure out of a car if it can only manage that power figure for one brief pull on a dyno. If you're going to take a car on track and you're going to be hammering on it for 20 or 30 minutes at a go, it's got to be able to keep performing. That's one reason that they recommend getting an intercooler as soon in the process as you possibly can, and also getting a very good one. I was chatting to him a little bit about the new 8th generation ST with the 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine, and he says that the intercooler on that is one of the most impressive he's ever seen on a factory car, and that means that they can do a hell of a lot with just a map. In fact, one of the new cars with just a map, he says, is pretty much equivalent to one of these with stage 2. That's pretty damn impressive. I'm personally quite surprised at that. I thought Ford might have made some effort to try and make the newer car not quite as tunable, because in theory that might take away from sales of the bigger models, but it would seem not. Ford are sticking by their heritage as a manufacturer for the automotive hooligan, and that's a good thing, I think. Things aren't the rosiest for Ford at the moment, but it's good to see some of their traditions being adhered to. The car does make, of course, the odd turbo whoosh, whizzle, bang and pop, but it's kind of part and parcel of having a car like this. They're not intrusive, and at normal speeds, other than the slightly fidgety ride, the car is perfectly comfortable and civil. Now this ST200 edition, compared with the final car, only has one significant difference from a performance perspective, and that is a slightly shorter final drive, which means that it is a little bit punchier in the lower gears, but in fairness, I think if you're in anything other than perfect conditions, you're probably going to find the car traction limited anyway. I've been driving this in sport mode because in the lower gears, if you try and put your boot down, it will just cut the power and therefore your fun. I must also applaud Gareth for keeping this car looking relatively stock. Other than the missing fog lamp, you really wouldn't think that this car was anything other than totally standard. There is no big AirTech logo hidden behind the radiator grille or anything like that, and the interior is totally standard, and I really would not want to strip the interior out of this. It would just kill the car for me. It sort of ruins the practicality and the sort of daily ability that having a hatchback brings. I often say that one of the best bits about being a YouTuber is when you get to drive a car which is a genuine surprise, and I have to say that this car is actually that. I mean, if you want to drive this like a complete and utter loon, you can. But the fact that this car, with its uprated turbo and its huge power figure and all that stuff, is actually thoroughly drivable is a real pleasant surprise, and I will concede this thing is a real little rocket ship. I can see why people love them. I'm still not a Fiesta ST convert, but this car was never going to do that to me. However, what it's done is just convinced me of how brilliant these things are. And they do last. They have at least one customer who's put 40,000 miles in a year on his modified ST. So, looked after, they're durable too. What a bargain. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Gareth at Stealthwerx for providing me with his car. Please do visit their website. I'll put the link in the description below for you to check them out. We'll see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.